If you're already calling me a racist, these words are for you. If I had to pick a word that was overused and misunderstood, it would be the term racist. In 2016, if a bird consciously decided to eat bread from a white hand before a black hand, it would be advertently misconstrued as racially discriminative, regardless of the limited color spectrum birds have, and mindless to the simple idea that perhaps one hand was closer than the other. For years, whites have been bullied and shied away from expressing their opinions, and sometimes even support and solutions to those select groups of blacks who weigh heavy on the scale of naivety and ignorance because they fear being labeled as racist, inexperienced, uneducated, and privileged. This now ends with me. The vast majority of the time when speaking about racial divides, the common response I hear is, "You don't understand what it's like to be black because you're white." Yes, I am. What I do understand, though, is what it's like to be categorized as something I know I am not. Isn't that the common denominator amongst racial division? Believing or knowing that our ingredients read differently than our labels portray? Here's how reality works, though. Labels are generated based on the quality of product, actions, and reactions. You cannot expect to be labeled as someone who has something to offer society if your actions incite poor reactions and reactions incite poor actions. That's not how it works. In a perfect world, maybe, but not this one. In this world, this country in particular, you have to work to improve that the ingredients you have are or are not what your label reads. But when the phrase work is mentioned, the broken record begins to play. We know what hard labor is. We've been enslaved by the white man all our lives. We're oppressed. Okay, you open that door. Now allow me to shut it, and then I'm going to lock it and throw the key in a field because we all know you're not going to go out and get it because you don't know what real slavery is like. Let me throw some reality at you, and then we can tango to the repetitive tune of slavery and oppression. Slavery has been documented as early as 206 BC, all the way from the Han Dynasty, where men were castrated and their families were imprisoned as slaves. Slavery existed in China up until 1910, in Japan until the 16th century, and pre-Columbia Mesoamerica, where as many as 84,000 people were sacrificed in 1484. Slavery existed in Germany, Brazil, the British and French Caribbean, New Zealand, Hawaii, Oceania, Africa, Australia. You name the location, and chances are slavery existed and may even still exist today. People were not forced into slavery based solely on color. Believe it or not, all ethnicities have been slaves at some point. Slaves were owned by lower, middle, and upper class, and even by other slaves. In fact, in 1654, Virginia legalized, and I quote, "the right for Negroes to own slaves of their own race," end quote. Own being the operative word. Fast track to 1862 and 1863 when Abraham Lincoln, a white Republican, executed the Emancipation Proclamation. You know, the document that abolished slavery. 3 million slaves were freed, where 200,000 then fought for the Union in the Army and the Navy, validating their citizenship and status. In 1865, Lincoln was assassinated. John F. Kennedy, also a white Republican, created the Civil Rights Act of 1964, and in 1963, as soon as he went public with it, he was assassinated. So, while some of you were enslaved by white men, you were also freed by them too, and it cost them their lives. Oh, and in 1877, when the Democrats regained control of southern states, blacks lost nearly all of their rights again, including their right to vote, where they became second-class citizens. Thanks, Democrats. Let's fast forward to the term oppression, since this is one of the most commonly used and abused terms of 2016. The Holocaust, where from 1941 to 1945, 6 million Jews were murdered, 1.5 million being children, and another 5 million who did not practice Judaism, bringing a grand total of mass murders to approximately 11 million. The motive behind the Holocaust was strictly ideological. Millions of men, women, and children were sent to their deaths because of the way they looked and the religion they practiced. Do you know what the seemingly 100,000 Holocaust survivors do today? They live their life. They work hard. They spread awareness and appreciation of what it means to survive genocide. They earned a label with ingredients of respect and heroism. Rwanda genocide, where between April and June of 1994, in a span of 100 days, 800,000 Rwanda inhabitants were killed. This doesn't include the 5 million deaths that have occurred in the Dominican Republic of Congo since the genocide ended. Fast forward to today, ongoing ISIS Genocide. 400,000 members of the Yazdi community have been murdered. Men and boys are being shot in the head and their throats being slit. Girls as young as 9 years old are being sold as slaves, where they are raped and sexually mutilated to prevent them from having children and breeding Yazdi bloodlines. Look at your child right now. Depending on their age, they can be sold anywhere between $124 and $165 in these places. Do you know what happens if a mother tries to escape? She is forced to watch the execution of all of her children and then beaten to death if she cries. Their motive? Strictly ideological as well. Approximately 7,000 Yazdi women are currently being held as sex slaves and nothing has been done to save them. And this is actually happening now. I won't even get into the thousands of other people currently being slaughtered by the hands of ISIS. So you want to talk about slavery and how oppressed you are? Let's talk about slavery that's happening now. Let's talk about oppression that is happening now. This country is done hearing you bitch and moan about slavery that you never experienced when millions of people across the globe are being raped, tortured, held prisoner, sold into slavery, and stripped away from their family and lost in the winds of reality. You live in fantasy land where you actually think you're entitled to anything and everything because your skin color implies that your great-grandparents had to work to stay alive. I guarantee you that if they had to pick between the life that they had and the current of millions across the globe right now victimized by political ideology, they would choose old-fashioned slavery. New World slavery is something that none of you ungrateful and self-entitled fools could begin to fathom. But go ahead. Tell me some more about how America hates you and how little you receive in welfare checks. Go ahead and tell me how oppressed and enslaved you have been while you roam the streets freely. Indulge me on how victimized you are by the United States government. Tell me how badly being racially profiled hurts your feelings. Explain to me about how cruel that police officer was when he pulled you over. Enlighten me on the evils you face every day. You can't affect change if you don't first consciously choose to become the change. Life isn't a country song or a poorly articulated rap song. You don't go from broke to rich overnight. You don't wake up in million-dollar mansions by doing nothing in life. You earn your spot. You earn your title. You don't make headway by bitching and moaning about a life you never even experienced, about work you never even had to do, because the country you now live in doesn't require you to do a damn thing except maybe piss in a cup to receive my money. And you damn sure don't incite change by going out and stealing merchandise, burning down buildings and vehicles and causing mayhem in your streets. And then you have the audacity to turn around and complain about a label that you ultimately gave yourself. You're racially profiled because you act like heathens. I'm willing to bet you don't have the slightest idea what you're fighting for. Unity? You're dividing us all. Equality? You consider yourselves above everyone else. Ending racism? You can't burn racism by calling everyone a racist. You would have positive attention from this entire nation if you find a common goal, respectively work to achieve it, and present yourselves with intelligence and plausible solutions. Earn the label you know you are by proving over time that you deserve it. It's not going to happen overnight, but the sooner you stop acting like fools, the sooner you will be treated as respected individuals. The actions we take dictate the lives that we lead. So if you're not going to live life for you, live it for the people who didn't get a chance to live it all. Millions of people would kill to be in your shoes. In fact, many people are killing to be in your shoes. And you want to walk all over the concept of freedoms that you have been given. Freedoms that you were born into. You didn't earn them. You didn't fight for them. You damn sure didn't die for them. Other people did. So you think about that the next time you want to preach about slavery and oppression. And then turn to your kid and be thankful that they're alive. Teach them to become the change, not to incite it with violence and hatred. Teach them history, all of history, and open their minds and the world we live in today instead of refusing to walk through that door that opened 50 years ago. Only you get to determine the ingredients you want your label to read. And until you understand that, you will never make it anywhere in this life. And all you'll have to blame is yourself, not us.